My name is Michael Loyd, Master's in Psychology, Neuropsychology concentration. I want to read a couple of excerpts from The Best American Science and Nature Writing by Steven Pinker. Editor is Tom Folger. This was 2004. It was published from the Best American series. This short reading, the first of several short readings, is on page 129 by Jonathan Roch, Caring for Your Introvert, from the Atlantic Monthly. Do you know someone who needs hours alone every day? Who loves quiet conversations about feelings or ideas and can give a dynamite presentation to a big audience but seems awkward in groups and malodorate at small talk? Who has to be a drag to parties and then needs the rest of the day to recuperate? Who growls or scowls or grunts or winces when accosted with pleasantries by people who are just trying to be nice? If so, do you tell this person he is too serious? Or ask if he is okay? Regard him as aloof, arrogant, rude? Redouble your efforts to draw him out? If you answered yes to these questions, chances are that you have an introvert on your hands and that you aren't caring for him properly. Science has learned a good deal in recent years about the habits and requirements of introverts. It has even learned, by means of brain scans, that introverts process information differently from other people. I'm not making this up. If you are behind the curve on this important matter, be reassured you are not alone. Introverts may be common, but they are also among the most misunderstood and aggrieved groups in America, possibly the world. I know. My name is Jonathan. I am an introvert. Oh, for years I denied it. After all, I have good social skills. I'm not morose or misanthropic. Usually, I am far from shy. I love conversations that explore intimate thoughts or passionate interests. But at last I have self-identified and come out to my friends and colleagues. In doing so, I have found myself liberated from any number of damaging misconceptions and stereotypes. Now I'm here to tell you what you need to know in order to respond sensitively and supportively to your own introverted family members, friends, and colleagues. Remember, someone you know, respect, and interact with every day is an introvert, and you're probably driving this person nuts. It pays to learn the warning signs. What is introversion? In its modern sense, the concept goes back to the 1920s and the psychologist Carl Jung. Today, it is a mainstay of personality tests, including the widely used Myers-Briggs type indicator. Introverts are not necessarily shy. Shy people are anxious or frightened or self-excoriating in social settings. Introverts generally are not. Introverts are not misanthropic, though some of us do go along with the satire as far as to say, hell is other people at breakfast. Rather, introverts are people who find other people tiring. Introverts are energized by people and wilt or fade when alone. Extroverts are energized by people and wilt or fade when alone. They often seem bored by themselves, in both senses of the expression. Leave an extrovert alone for 2 minutes, and he will reach for his cell phone. In contrast, after an hour or two of being socially on, we introverts need to turn off and recharge. My own formula is roughly 2 hours alone for every hour of socializing. This isn't antisocial. It isn't a sign of depression. It does not call for medication. For introverts, to be alone with our thoughts is as restorative as sleeping, as nourishing as eating. Our motto, I'm okay, you're okay, in small doses. How many people are introverts? I performed exhaustive research on this question in the form of a quick Google search. The answer, about 25%, or just under half, or maybe my favorite, a minority of the regular population, but a majority of the gifted population. Are introverts misunderstood? Wildly. That, it appears, is our lot in life. It is very difficult for an extrovert to understand an introvert. Write the education experts J.D. Burrus and Lisa Kenzig. They are also the source of the quotation in the previous paragraph. Extroverts are easy for introverts to understand because extroverts spend so much of their time working out who they are in voluble and frequently inescapable interaction with other people. They are as inscrutable as puppy dogs. But the street does not run both ways. Extroverts have little or no grasp of introversion. They assume that company, especially of their own, is always welcome. They cannot imagine why someone would need to be alone. Indeed, they often take umbrage at the suggestion. As often as I have tried to explain the matter to extroverts, I have never sensed in any of them that they really understood. They listen for a moment and then go back to barking and yipping. Are introverts oppressed? I would have to say so. For one thing, extroverts are overrepresented in politics, a profession in which only the garrulous are really comfortable. Look at George W. Bush. Look at Bill Clinton. They seem to come fully to life only around other people. To think of the few introverts who did rise to the top in politics, Calvin Coolidge, Richard Nixon, is merely to drive home the point. With the possible exception of Ronald Reagan, whose fabled aloofness and privateness was probably signs of a deep introverted streak. Many actors I've read are introverts, and many introverts, when socializing, feel like actors. Introverts are not considered naturals in politics. Extroverts, therefore, dominate in public life. This is a pity. If we introverts ran the world, it would no doubt be a calmer, saner, more peaceful sort of place. As Coolidge is supposed to have said, don't you know that 4/5 of all troubles in this world will disappear if we just sit down and keep still? He's also supposed to have said, if you don't say anything, you won't be called on to repeat it. The only thing a true introvert dislikes more than talking about himself is repeating himself. With their endless appetite for talk and attention, extroverts also dominate social life, so they tend to set expectations. In our extroverted society, being outgoing is considered normal and therefore desirable, a mark of happiness, confidence, leadership. Extroverts are seen as big-hearted, vibrant, warm, empathic. people person is a compliment. Introverts are described with words like guarded, loner, reserved, taciturn, self contained, private. Narrow, ungenerous words, words that suggest emotional parsimony and smallness of personality. Female introverts, I suspect, must suffer especially. In certain circles, particularly in the Midwest, a man can still sometimes get away with being what they used to call a strong, silent type. Introverted women, lacking that alternative, are even more likely than men to be perceived as timid, withdrawn, haughty. Are introverts arrogant? Hardly. I suppose this common misconception has to do with our being more intelligent, more reflective, more independent, more level headed, more refined, and more sensitive than extroverts. Also, it is probably due to our lack of small talk, a lack that extroverts often mistake for disdain. We tend to think before talking, whereas extroverts tend to think by talking, which is why their meetings never last less than 6 hours. Introverts, write a, writes a perceptive fellow named Thomas P. Cruiser in an online review of a recent book called Why Should Extroverts Make All the Money? I'm not making that up either. Are driven to distraction by semi internal dialogue extroverts tend to conduct. Introverts don't outwardly complain, instead, roll their eyes and silently curse the darkness. Just so. The worst of it is that extroverts have no idea of the torment they put us through. Sometimes we gasp for air amid the fog of their 98% content free talk. We wonder if extroverts even bother to listen to themselves. Still, we endure stoically because of the etiquette books written no doubt by extroverts. Regard declining to banter as rude and gaps in conversation as awkward. We can only dream that someday, when our condition is more widely understood, when perhaps an introverts' rights movement has blossomed and borne fruit, it will not be impolite to say, I'm an introvert. You're a wonderful person and I like you. But now, please, shush. How can I let the introvert in my life know that I support him and respect his choice? First, recognize it's not a choice. It's not a lifestyle. It's an orientation. Second, when you see an introvert lost in thought, don't say, what's the matter? Or, are you all right? Third, don't say anything else either. Thanks for listening.